I inherited $180 million from my brother and decided to keep it secret until Thanksgiving. But the night before the holiday, my own daughter looked at me and said, "There's nothing to be thankful for this year, so stay away." I didn't argue. Instead, a few days later, I posted one photo, and suddenly my phone showed 58 missed calls because betrayal doesn't go unpunished. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. The phone rang at 9:47 a.m. on October 5th, pulling me away from the 1847 brass pocket watch I was cleaning in my basement workshop. The number showed Donald Fisher's law office in Philadelphia. "Francis Baker speaking. Mr. Baker, this is Donald Fisher. I'm calling about your brother Blake." His voice had the careful lawyer tone, the one they use when delivering bad news. "I'm very sorry to inform you that he passed away yesterday from a heart attack at his home in San Diego." I set down my tools. Blake. We hadn't spoken in 12 years, not since that brutal argument over the family business Dad left us. He wanted to expand aggressively. I wanted to play it safe. Words were said, harsh ones, and we never recovered. I attended Mom's funeral 5 years ago. He didn't show up. "I see," I managed. "When's the funeral?" "October 8th. Mr. Baker, there's something else. Your brother named you as executor of his estate. We need to discuss some matters in person. Can you come to San Diego?" 3 days later, I was sitting in a conference room overlooking the San Diego harbor, watching Fisher arrange documents on the polished table. The funeral had been small. Blake never married, no kids, just business associates and a few neighbors who barely knew him. "Before we begin," Fisher said, sliding a thick folder toward me, "I need to verify your identity." After checking my driver's license and signing forms, he opened another folder. "Your brother left everything to you, Francis. No other beneficiaries." "Everything?" I felt my pulse quicken. Blake had been successful, but we're talking about a guy who drove a Toyota and lived in a modest house. "What's everything?" Fisher pulled out a document with bold letters at the top. Estate Valuation Summary. My eyes scanned down the page. 5 properties in California. Commercial real estate in San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. Investment portfolio with stocks, bonds, and private equity. Cash assets distributed across multiple accounts. Total estimated value, $180,000. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of the table. That can't be right. "It's accurate. Your brother was extremely savvy with investments. He lived modestly, but built substantial wealth over 4 decades. Fisher's expression was neutral, professional. "This will take time to process. Probate, tax considerations, property transfers. But yes, Mr. Baker, you're inheriting $180 million. I flew back to Philadelphia on October 12th in a daze. My entire life, I'd been careful with money. 43 years as a financial consultant, helping clients manage their inheritances and trust funds, yet I'd never accumulated anything close to this. My pension gave me $3,200 a month. I had $127,000 in savings, money I'd spent decades building up, dollar by dollar, and now this. Walking through my front door at 824 Winding Way, I looked around my 2-story house with fresh eyes. The worn carpet Jennifer kept suggesting I replace. The kitchen cabinets I'd been meaning to refinish. The basement workshop where I spent hours restoring antique timepieces. A hobby my daughter called your clock obsession. Jennifer, my daughter, and her husband Jason, and their daughter Whitney. I pulled out my phone, started to dial, then stopped. Something made me hesitate. Maybe it was the memory of last month's dinner at their place, when Jason made that comment about living on a fixed income with barely concealed contempt, or Whitney's embarrassed look when her friends asked what her grandfather did, like being a retired financial consultant wasn't good enough. Or maybe it was Jennifer's voice last week. "Dad, can you watch Whitney Saturday? We're going to the Hamptons with Jason's parents. They have a beach house there. It's incredible." An idea formed, sharp and clear. Thanksgiving was 6 weeks away. What if I waited? What if I surprised them at Thanksgiving dinner, announced this life-changing news when we were all together? I could already picture their faces, Jennifer's shock, Jason's stunned silence, Whitney's excited squeals. I could help with Jennifer's mortgage, She and Jason had been struggling with the $340,000 they still owed on that house they'd bought beyond their means. I could pay off Whitney's college tuition, $4,700 a year, at that private school they'd chosen. I could finally be the father, the grandfather they'd always wished I was. The decision settled over me like a warm blanket. Yes, I'd wait. I'd keep this secret, handle the legal paperwork quietly with Fisher, and then at Thanksgiving, when families gathered to express gratitude, I'd give them something to truly be thankful for. I had no idea how spectacularly wrong that plan would go. The next 6 weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and quiet preparation. Between October 13th and November 25th, I met with Fisher 6 times at his Philadelphia office, signing documents, transferring assets, navigating the complex machinery of inheritance law. Each time I drove home, I imagined Thanksgiving dinner. Fisher noticed my distraction during our 4th meeting. "You seem preoccupied, Francis." "Just thinking about my family," I said, not elaborating. What I didn't tell him was that I'd started a list on a notepad hidden in my workshop. Jennifer's needs. Jason's car lease that was stressing them out. Whitney's spring semester tuition. The numbers added up, but $180,000 could handle it all with room to spare. I kept dropping hints to Jennifer during our weekly phone calls. "Looking forward to Thanksgiving this year," I said on November 10th. "Sure, Dad, same as always." Her tone suggested this was just another obligation on her calendar. "I have some news to share, something special." "That's nice. Hey, can I call you back? I'm at Whole Foods and the line's terrible." On November 19th, I tried again. "The thing I mentioned, the news? It's big, Jennifer, really big." "Okay, Dad." I heard her typing, probably checking email. "We'll talk at Thanksgiving." November 26th arrived cold and gray. I spent the morning preparing, even though I wasn't cooking. That would happen at Jennifer's house, 30 minutes away in their rental on Pembroke Lane. I put on my good sweater, the navy one Jennifer gave me 3 Christmases ago, and checked my phone at 7:30 p.m. Almost time to leave. Then my phone rang. "Jennifer." "Hey, honey, I'm about to head out." "Dad, don't." Her voice was tight, strained. "We need to talk." I sat down on my couch, sudden dread pooling in my stomach. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, it's just... Look, this year has been really hard for us. Jason's having problems at work, his sales numbers are down. Whitney needs money for next semester, and we don't have it. And you..." She paused. "You can't help. You're on a fixed income. We get it, we're not blaming you, but there's nothing to be thankful for this year. Not with you." The words hit like a physical blow. "Jennifer, wait, I need to tell you. We're spending Thanksgiving with Jason's family, the Walkers. They have that place in Chester Springs, you know. We'll actually have things to talk about besides your clock collection and your pension checks. I'm sorry, Dad, but just stay home this year, okay?" The line went dead. I sat there, phone in my hand, staring at nothing. 12 years I'd been alone after my wife died. 12 years of weekly calls to Jennifer, of birthday cards with checks I could barely afford, of showing up to Whitney's school plays and soccer games, of being the reliable, steady presence in their lives. And I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving because I couldn't help them financially. My phone buzzed. Instagram notification. Whitney had posted a photo, her, Jennifer, and Jason, at an elegant dining table, crystal glasses raised, expensive floral centerpieces. The caption read, "Thankful for the Walkers. They know what family really means. That real family, sextar blessed." I read it 3 times. Then I set my phone down carefully on the coffee table and walked to my kitchen. The pre-made turkey dinner from Acme sat in the refrigerator, still in its plastic container. I heated it in the microwave, poured myself water, and ate alone at my kitchen table, watching the parade on TV with the sound off. But something was changing inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and deep. But underneath it, something colder was crystallizing. I thought about all those years as a financial consultant, helping wealthy families navigate inheritances, watching children fight over money, seeing what greed could do to relationships. I thought about the $180,000 sitting in accounts with my name on them, and I thought about the look on Jennifer's face if she knew, the shock, the regret, the desperation. Around midnight, I went down to my workshop and pulled out that notepad with my gift list. Jennifer's mortgage, $340,000. Whitney's tuition, $47,500. Jason's lease, $890 monthly. I picked up my pen and wrote one word across the page in large letters: no. Then I called Fisher's emergency line. He answered on the third ring, groggy. "Francis, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, Donald. Everything's perfectly clear now. I need to schedule a meeting, Monday morning, first thing. And bring your estate planning team. We're changing everything." "Changing what?" I looked at Whitney's Instagram post, still glowing on my phone screen. My whole approach, I was going to give them everything. Now, I allowed myself a cold smile. Now, I'm going to teach them what family really means, and I'm going to enjoy every single second of it. Fisher was silent for a moment. Then, "I'll clear my calendar for Monday, 9 a.m.? "Perfect. Oh, and Donald? We're going to need documents, lots of them." I hung up and sat in my workshop, surrounded by decades of carefully restored timepieces, each one rescued from neglect and brought back to perfect working order. Time to do some restoration work on my family, but this time, the process would be significantly more painful. For them, anyway. The morning of November 27th, I sat in my workshop at 6:00 a.m., sleepless but strangely energized. The 1847 pocket watch on my workbench ticked steadily, its brass gears moving with perfect precision, 47 components working together, each one essential. Remove the wrong piece and the whole mechanism fails. I thought about family the same way. What happens when you discover you're not an essential component? When you're just decorative trim, easily discarded? My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "Dad, if you need company today, we're here for you." I stared at that message for a full minute. 24 hours ago, I wasn't welcome at her table. Now she was offering company. The inheritance hadn't even been mentioned yet, and already she sensed something had shifted. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and scrolled through Whitney's Instagram. Photo after photo of the Walkers' Thanksgiving, the elegant table settings, the expensive wine, Jason's father in his country club sweater. And that caption, "Thankful for the Walkers, they know what family really means." I read the comments. 53 people had liked it. Friends from her private school probably, the ones who drove BMWs their parents bought them. One comment caught my eye. "So blessed to have real family, not everyone understands quality time." Whitney had replied with 3 heart emojis. Quality time. I'd attended every soccer game, every school play, every birthday party for 19 years. But those memories apparently didn't qualify as quality. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, studying the inheritance documents Fisher had given me. 5 properties in California, 2 commercial buildings in downtown San Diego, worth approximately $47,000 combined. A shopping center in Los Angeles valued at $38,000. A warehouse complex in San Francisco worth $22,000. And a beachfront residential property in La Jolla worth $14,500. Then the investment portfolio, stocks, bonds, private equity holdings. Blake had been brilliant. He'd taken the family business money from our father's auto parts company and transformed it into an empire. While I'd played it safe with my 401k and savings account, he'd been building wealth beyond anything I'd imagined, and he'd left it all to me, the brother he hadn't spoken to in 12 years. November 28th passed in a blur of planning. I made lists, crossed them out, made new ones. By evening, I had something resembling a strategy, but I needed professional guidance. I called Fisher's office at 8:47 p.m. "Francis, everything all right? I need a meeting, Monday morning, 4 hours minimum, and Donald, this conversation stays between us." There was a pause. "Of course. What are we discussing?" "How to teach my family the difference between inheritance and entitlement." His voice changed, became more interested. "I'll clear my calendar." November 29th, I drove to Fisher's office in downtown Philadelphia. His practice occupied the 3rd floor of a glass building on Lancaster Avenue. Professional, discreet, expensive. Fisher met me in the conference room, same one where I'd learned about the inheritance. He'd brought coffee and legal pads. "Tell me what you're thinking," he said. I told him about Thanksgiving, about Jennifer's phone call, Whitney's Instagram post, Jason's family dinner that I wasn't good enough to attend. Fisher listened without interruption, his expression neutral, but his eyes sharp. "And now?" he asked. "Now I want them to understand what they threw away, but more than that, I want them to understand what family actually means." I pulled out my phone and showed him Whitney's post. "This is what they value: status, money, appearance." Fisher nodded slowly. "And you want to use the inheritance to teach them otherwise?" "Yes, but legally. No games, no tricks, everything above board and ironclad." We spent 4 hours mapping strategy. Fisher took notes, asked questions, proposed options, trust structures, conditional distributions, legal frameworks that would protect my intentions while giving them exactly what they deserved. At 2:15 p.m., Fisher leaned back in his chair. "This will work. It's unorthodox, but completely legal. When do you want to move?" "Tomorrow. I want to post something on Facebook, just enough to get their attention." "What kind of something?" I smiled. "A photograph, right here at this table, with the inheritance documents visible." Fisher's eyebrows rose. "You want them to see the amount?" "I want them to understand what they're missing. Then we'll see what happens." He studied me for a long moment. "Francis, are you certain? Once you do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with them will change forever." "It already has. They changed it on November 26th at 7:47 p.m. I'm just responding accordingly." We staged the photograph carefully. Me sitting at the conference table, Fisher's office visible in the background. On the table, documents with large, clear text: inheritance transfer and estate valuation, $180,000. Not fake. These were real documents, just positioned strategically. Fisher took the photo with his phone. "Are you sure about this?" "Completely." November 30th at 2:23 p.m., I hit post on Facebook. I rarely use the platform. 34 friends, mostly neighbors, and a few old colleagues. The caption was simple: "Thankful after all. My brother Blake remembered me. Some family understands what matters." Then I put my phone on silent and went down to my workshop. By 5:30 p.m., I had 58 missed calls from Jennifer, 34 from Jason, and 12 text messages from Whitney. I read them all, one by one, watching the progression from confusion to shock to desperation. Jennifer: "Dad, call me. Is this real?" Jennifer: "Dad, please call." Jennifer: "We need to talk right now." Jason: "Frank, we should discuss this situation." Jason: "This is a family matter. Call me back." Jason: "You can't ignore us forever." Whitney: "Grandpa, is this true? OMG. Whitney: "Grandpa, please answer." Whitney: "I love you so much. Please call me." I set my phone down and picked up a tiny gear from the 1847 watch. Such a small thing, but without it, everything stops. My doorbell rang at 8:03 p.m. I looked through the window and saw Jennifer's SUV in my driveway. All three of them, Jennifer, Jason, and Whitney, standing on my porch in the cold November evening. I let them wait for exactly 60 seconds. Then I opened the door. They stood there in the yellow porch light, breath fogging in the cold air. Jennifer's eyes were red and puffy. Jason had his hands in his coat pockets, jaw tight. Whitney looked smaller somehow, younger than her 19 years. "Dad," Jennifer's voice cracked. "Can we come in?" I stepped aside without a word. They filed past me into the living room, the same room where we'd celebrated Whitney's high school graduation, where we'd had awkward Christmas mornings after my wife died, where I'd tried to maintain some semblance of family. They arranged themselves on the couch, Jennifer in the middle, Jason to her right, Whitney to her left. A united front. I took my usual chair across from them and waited. "We saw your post," Jennifer began. She was trying to compose herself, but her hands twisted together in her lap. "Is it real? Did Blake really leave you that much?" "Yes." The word hung in the air. Jason leaned forward. "Frank, that's incredible news. We're happy for you. Really." His voice had that salesman's smoothness he probably used at the car dealership. "And we wanted to apologize about Thanksgiving. That was..." "Poor timing," Jennifer interrupted. "I was stressed. Jason's boss has been threatening layoffs, and Whitney's tuition is due in January, and I snapped. I didn't mean what I said." Whitney reached across and grabbed my hand. "Grandpa, I love you so much. That Instagram post, I wasn't thinking. The Walkers can be kind of show-offy, and I got caught up in it. But you're my real family. You know that, right? I looked at each of them in turn. Jennifer's mascara-stained face, Jason's calculated expression, Whitney's wide, pleading eyes. Tell me something, I said quietly. When did you figure out about the money? They exchanged glances. Your Facebook post, Jennifer said. That's when we knew for sure. But you suspected before then. I told you I had special news for Thanksgiving, remember? Jennifer's face flushed. I thought maybe you'd sold one of your watches or something. You didn't think it mattered. Not enough to let me join you at dinner. I kept my voice level, conversational. So now you know it's real. The question is, what do you want? Silence. Jason cleared his throat. This isn't about money, Frank. Then what's it about? Family, reconciliation. He spread his hands. Look, we made a mistake. We admit that. But families work through mistakes. That's what makes them families. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I said, I have a meeting with my lawyer on December 4th to discuss estate planning, distributions, that sort of thing. If you have specific requests, you should think about them between now and then. Whitney's grip on my hand tightened. Grandpa, I really do need help with tuition. Spring semester is $7,500, and we just don't have it. I might have to take a semester off. That would be unfortunate, I said. You're so close to finishing. So you'll help? Her face brightened. I said I have a meeting on December 4th. We'll discuss it then. They left 20 minutes later, confused but hopeful. I watched their taillights disappear down Winding Way, then went back inside and checked my phone. The messages had already started. December 1st, 9:15 a.m. Jennifer sent a long text about how much she loved me, how proud she was to be my daughter, how she'd always appreciated my steady presence in her life. December 1st, 2:30 p.m. Jason sent a business proposal, a PDF document outlining an investment opportunity in a high-growth automotive partnership. He needed $500,000 to get in on the ground floor. The returns, he assured me, would be substantial. December the 2nd, 11:20 a.m. Whitney sent a heartbreaking message about her college expenses. She needed $35,000 total, tuition plus books, housing deposits, and a new laptop, because her current one was basically dying. She added a broken heart emoji. December the 2nd, 8:45 p.m. Jennifer again, this time about the mortgage. Dad, I hate to ask, but we're really struggling. The $340,000 we owe is crushing us. If you could help with even part of it, as a loan or a gift, it would change our lives. You'd be helping your granddaughter too. We could finally give her a stable home. I saved every message, printed them out, put them in a folder. December 3rd, I drove back to Fisher's office. This time I'd asked him to bring 2 other people, a notary named Bernard Crane and a trust fund specialist named Caroline Wells. I'd worked with both of them occasionally during my consulting career. They were professionals who understood discretion. We met in Fisher's conference room at 2 p.m. I laid out the printed messages on the table. Here's what they want, I said, and here's what I'm going to give them. For the next 3 hours, we built a framework. Fisher drafted documents while Wells explained the trust structures. Crane notarized everything as we went, creating an ironclad legal foundation, the Family Assistance Trust Agreement, the Contribution Requirement Clause, the Behavioral Compliance Agreement. Wells reviewed the final documents. Francis, this is tight, very tight. They'll have access to funds, but only under your specified conditions. If they violate any clause, the trust closes and everything reverts to alternative beneficiaries. Which would be, whatever you designate, charity, other family members, whoever you choose. Perfect. Fisher looked at me over his reading glasses. You understand this will cause conflict, possibly severe conflict. I'm counting on it. And you're prepared for that? I thought about Whitney's Instagram post, about Jennifer's voice telling me to stay away from Thanksgiving, about Jason's smug face at the Walkers' dinner table, probably telling stories about his freeloading father-in-law. More than prepared, I said. I'm looking forward to it. Crane finished the last notarization at 5:47 p.m. We had 9 copies of every document, each one legally binding, each one a small piece of precision machinery working together, just like the gears in an antique watch. Fisher walked me to the elevator. December 4th at your house? Yes, all 3 of them will be there. And after that? After that, we'll see if they really understand what family means. Or if they only understand what money means. The elevator doors opened. Before I stepped in, Fisher said, "Francis, for what it's worth, I think Blake would approve of this." I thought about my brother, about the 12 years we'd lost to pride and stubbornness, about the letter Fisher had mentioned, the one Blake had written before he died. "Maybe," I said, "maybe he's the one who taught me this lesson in the first place." I went home and worked in my workshop until midnight, assembling the 1847 pocket watch piece by piece. Each gear had to be perfectly positioned. Each spring had to have exactly the right tension. And each member of my family was about to discover that their position in my life now came with very specific requirements. They wanted to be part of the inheritance? Fine. But they were going to earn every single dollar. December 4th arrived cold and clear. I spent the morning arranging my living room like a courtroom. Fisher would sit beside me at the dining table. Jennifer, Jason, and Whitney would sit across from us on the couch. The folders, 3 of them, identical, professionally bound, sat in a neat stack at my elbow. They arrived at 2 p.m. sharp. Fisher was already there, briefcase open, looking every bit the corporate attorney in his gray suit. Jennifer wore her important meeting outfit, the black blazer she'd bought for job interviews she never actually attended. Jason had on khakis and a button-down, his car salesman uniform. Whitney looked nervous, younger in jeans and a sweater. "Please, sit down," I said, gesturing to the couch. They sat. Jennifer's hands were clasped tightly in her lap. Jason leaned back, trying to appear relaxed, but his jaw was tight. Whitney perched on the edge of the cushion, eyes darting between me and the folders. "I've thought about your requests," I began. Whitney's tuition, Jennifer's mortgage, Jason's investment opportunity. I let the silence stretch for exactly 5 seconds. "And I've decided I want to help you." Jennifer's face transformed. Relief flooded her features and she actually smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen from her in months. "Dad, thank you." I held up one hand. "But there are conditions. You'll need to sign documents." The smile faltered slightly. Jason sat forward. "What kind of documents?" Fisher pulled the folders from the stack and slid one to each of them. "These are legally binding agreements that outline the terms of financial assistance from Mr. Baker's inheritance." I watched their faces as they opened the folders. The first document had a header in bold, "Family Assistance Trust Agreement." "This establishes a trust fund," I explained. "All financial assistance will be distributed through this trust, which I control as the sole trustee. You'll receive funds for specific approved expenses, education, medical needs, housing stability, not investment schemes, not luxury purchases." Jason's expression hardened. "Frank, that seems—" "Turn to page 3, I said. They flipped pages. Whitney's eyes widened. Jennifer's mouth opened slightly. Jason's face reddened. The second document, Contribution Requirement Clause. 200 hours, I said calmly. Each of you will complete 200 hours of volunteer work annually at approved charitable organizations, animal shelters, food banks, homeless outreach programs. Your choice, but it must be documented and verified. You can't be serious, Jason said. I'm completely serious. Turn to page 6. The third document. Behavioral Compliance Agreement. Any instance of public disrespect, social media disparagement, or personal insults directed at me will result in immediate suspension of funding, 3 violations, and the trust closes permanently. Jennifer was shaking her head. Dad, this is reasonable, I finished. These are my terms. You have until December 11th to sign, 1 week. If you choose not to, that's fine. The inheritance will be allocated elsewhere. Jason stood up, his face flushed. This is manipulation. You're using money to control us. I looked at him steadily. No, Jason, I'm using my money to ensure it goes towards something meaningful. If you find volunteer work and basic respect too high a price for financial assistance, then perhaps you don't need it as badly as you claimed. Grandpa, Whitney's voice was small, I really do need help with school. I'll sign. I'll do the volunteer work. Good. I pulled out a pen and set it on the table. But all 3 of you sign, or none of you do. This is a family agreement. You're either all in or all out. Jennifer looked at Jason. Jason looked at the documents. The room was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, another timepiece I'd restored, its mechanism now running with perfect precision. "We need to think about this," Jennifer said finally. "Of course. You have until December 11th at 5 p.m. Fisher will be at his office that day to witness the signatures. Or not." I stood, signaling the meeting was over. "Take the documents with you, read them carefully, consult your own lawyer if you want. I encourage it, actually. Everything here is completely legal and above board." They left in a daze, folders clutched in their hands. Through the window, I watched them cluster around Jason's BMW in my driveway, heads together in urgent conversation. Fisher closed his briefcase. "That went well." "They'll sign," I said. "They're angry, but they'll sign. They can't afford not to." "And after they sign," I smiled, "then the real education begins." Over the next week, I tracked their movements through the small window social media provided. Whitney posted a photo of herself at the library, caption, "Studying hard, lash, college life, la charge grateful." No mention of me, of course. Jennifer called twice. I let it go to voicemail. The messages were variations on the same theme. "Dad, can we talk about the terms? Some of them seem a bit extreme." Jason tried a different approach, texting, "Frank, I found a lawyer who says these agreements might not hold up in court. We should discuss this man to man." I forwarded the text to Fisher with a single question mark. His response came back in minutes. "They're airtight. Let him waste his money finding out." On December 9th, Jennifer tried one more time, showing up at my door unannounced. I let her in, but didn't offer coffee. "Dad, the volunteer hours, can't we negotiate that part? Jason works 60 hours a week. Whitney's in school full-time. 200 hours is less than 4 hours a week," I said. "Surely you can find 4 hours to help people who actually need it." Her jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "Fair? Let's talk about fair, Jennifer. Was it fair to uninvite me from Thanksgiving because I couldn't contribute financially? Was it fair when Whitney posted that her real family were the Walkers? Was it fair when you told me to stay away because all I could offer was talk about my clocks?" She had no answer for that. "Sign the documents or don't," I said. "But stop trying to negotiate. These aren't the opening terms of a business deal. They're my final offer." December 11th, 4:47 p.m., Fisher called. "They're here, all three of them. Jason looks like he's swallowing glass, but they're signing." "All the documents?" "Every page." Whitney signed first, then Jennifer. Jason held out until the end, but Jennifer convinced him. I smiled at the 1847 pocket watch on my workbench, all the pieces falling into place, gear by gear. "Excellent," I said. "Let's move to phase 2. December 12th, I wired $15,000 to Whitney's college account. Not the $35,000 she'd asked for, but enough to cover spring semester tuition. Her text came through 20 minutes later. "Received the payment. Thank you, Grandpa." Not, "I love you." Not, "This means so much." Just acknowledgement of a transaction. December 13th, I sent $8,000 to Jennifer and Jason's mortgage company with explicit instructions. One-time payment, principal only. Not the full $340,000 payoff Jennifer had hoped for. Just enough to give them a month's breathing room. Jennifer's call came at 7:23 p.m. "Dad, we got the payment. It helps, but we were hoping—" "That's what the trust approved," I said. "Continue meeting the requirements, and there will be more assistance in the future." "And Jason's investment?" "Denied. The trust doesn't fund speculative business ventures, but I've authorized $12,000 for debt consolidation. The payment will be made directly to his creditors." Silence. Then, "He's not going to be happy about that. He signed the agreement. He knew the terms." She hung up without saying goodbye. Over the next 3 days, I received exactly what I expected, grudging compliance masquerading as enthusiasm. Whitney posted Instagram photos of herself at a local literacy center, helping elementary school kids with reading. The caption mentioned "giving back," but the smile looked forced, and she was checking her phone in half the photos. Jennifer started volunteering at the Mainline Animal Shelter, a upscale facility where wealthy donors brought their purebred dogs. Her first Facebook post showed her in a branded shelter t-shirt, posing with a golden retriever. So rewarding to help these beautiful animals find homes. Volunteer or making a difference. I noticed she'd carefully tagged several of her wealthy friends in the post. Jason took the most direct route, signing up at Broad Street Ministries meal service for people experiencing homelessness. But his first text to Jennifer, which she accidentally sent in a group chat that included me. 2 hours down, 198 to go. This place smells like failure. I screenshot that message, filed it away. December 16th, I had lunch with Fisher at the Crescent Moon, a quiet restaurant on Main Street where we could talk privately. They're going through the motions, I said, stirring my coffee. Whitney's counting minutes, Jennifer's performing for social media, Jason's treating it like a prison sentence. Fisher cut into his salmon. Are you surprised? No, which is why I'm glad we prepared for this. He looked up. You want to tell them the truth? Soon, maybe after the holidays. Let them work a little longer first. Let them think they're playing my game while the real game has already been decided. They're going to be furious. They're going to be furious regardless. At least this way, they'll have done something useful first. Fisher set down his fork. Francis, when are you going to tell me what this is really about? Because it's not just about teaching them a lesson. You could have cut them off completely, donated everything to charity without this elaborate structure. I smiled. Actually, that's exactly what I did. His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. What? October 28th, 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. Before Jennifer uninvited me, before Whitney's Instagram post, before any of this. I pulled a folded document from my jacket pocket and slid it across the table. Remember when we met that day to finalize the inheritance transfer? Fisher unfolded the paper. His eyes widened as he read. Blake Baker, Memorial Charitable Foundation, Certificate of Incorporation. I created a charitable foundation, I said quietly. Registered it with Pennsylvania, transferred $175 million, 97.2% of the inheritance, into an endowment for educational support for children from low-income families. Scholarships, tutoring programs, school supplies, college prep courses. Fisher was staring at the document. $175 million? I kept $5 million for myself, enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. The family trust, the one they just signed for, has access to a maximum of $250,000 over 5 years, $50,000 per year, but only if they complete all requirements. They think they're working toward the whole inheritance. They think they're working toward whatever share they can negotiate. The truth is, there's almost nothing left to negotiate for. Fisher leaned back in his chair. You did this before Thanksgiving, before you knew they'd reject you. Blake's will made me think about legacy, about what matters. I was going to tell them about the foundation at Thanksgiving dinner, share the news that most of the money was going to help kids who actually needed it, but that there would still be enough to help them with genuine emergencies. I took a sip of coffee. Then Jennifer made that call, and I realized they needed a different kind of lesson first. When will you tell them? After they've put in some real work, after they've spent time with people who have nothing but still have dignity. Maybe then they'll understand why I made this choice. Fisher folded the document and handed it back. This is going to destroy your relationship with them. Donald, our relationship was destroyed the moment Jennifer told me I wasn't good enough for their Thanksgiving table. I'm just giving them a chance to build a new one, a real one, from the ground up. We finished lunch in comfortable silence. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Jason. Frank, following up on that investment opportunity. Really think you should reconsider. Could be big for all of us. I deleted it without responding. That evening, I sat in my workshop with the 1847 pocket watch finally complete. Every gear in place, every spring perfectly tensioned. I wound it carefully and set it on the bench. The tick was steady, reliable, precise. Some mechanisms take time to build correctly. Some lessons take time to learn. My family was about to discover that money can't buy what they really needed. Humility, purpose, and understanding that family isn't measured by what you can get, but by what you're willing to give. The watch ticked steadily in the quiet workshop. Tick, tick, tick. And I waited. December 17th, I noticed Jason's car parked outside my house at odd hours. Tuesday morning at 6:30 a.m. Wednesday evening at 9:15 p.m. He wasn't visiting, just watching, calculating. I'd expected this. Jason wasn't stupid, just greedy. And greedy people always suspect others of playing the same games they would play themselves. December 19th, thus Fisher called at 2:47 p.m. Francis, I got a strange request today. Someone named Marcus Webb called asking about your estate filings. Said he was doing verification work for a client he couldn't name. Private investigator? Most likely. I told him we don't discuss client matters and hung up. But you should know they're digging. Let them dig. Everything's legal and public record. The foundation registration is public record too. I smiled. I know. December 21st, my phone rang at 11:23 a.m. Unknown number, I answered. Mr. Baker, this is Marcus Webb. I'm calling regarding some financial matters that... I hung up. 2 minutes later, another call. I let it go to voicemail. Webb's message was professionally vague. Just hoping to clarify some details about property transfers. Please call me back. At 4:15 p.m., my phone exploded with activity. First Jason, then Jennifer, then Whitney. I ignored all of them. At 5:03 p.m., a group text appeared. Jason had created one including all three of them, and me. Jason, family meeting, tonight, 7 p.m., your house or ours. Jennifer, Dad, please, this is important. Whitney, Grandpa, we need to talk now, I replied. My house, 7:30 p.m. They arrived at 7:29 p.m. I watched through the window as they sat in Jason's BMW for 3 minutes, having some kind of heated discussion. Jennifer's hands were moving emphatically. Jason's jaw was set. Whitney was crying. When they finally approached, I opened the door before they could knock. They looked different. Jason's usual swagger was gone, replaced by something harder, angrier. Jennifer's face was blotchy from crying. Whitney wouldn't meet my eyes. Come in, I said calmly. They stood in my living room. Nobody sat. This wasn't a social call. Jason pulled out his phone and held it up. On the screen was a document. Blake Baker, Memorial Charitable Foundation, Pennsylvania Department of State. Articles of Incorporation, filed October 28th, 2025. October 28th, Jason said, his voice tight. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, a month before you posted that Facebook picture, you created a charitable foundation and transferred $175 million into it. I said nothing. You gave away 97% of the inheritance, he continued, before Jennifer even called you, before Whitney's Instagram post, before any of this. That's correct, I said. Jennifer made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob. Dad, tell me this is wrong. Tell me this is some kind of mistake. It's not a mistake. I established the foundation on October 28th and transferred the bulk of Blake's estate into an endowment for educational programs, scholarships for children from low-income families, tutoring programs, college preparation courses. That's our money, Whitney's voice cracked. He was your brother. We're your family. Blake left everything to me, not to you, and I had every legal right to allocate it as I saw fit. Jason stepped closer. His face was flushed, a vein pulsing in his temple. This is theft. You're stealing from your own family. Actually, it's philanthropy, and it's completely legal. Pennsylvania law is very clear. The beneficiary of an inheritance has full discretion over asset allocation. Blake's will was specific. Everything to me, no other beneficiaries mentioned. I chose to honor his legacy by helping people who actually need it. We need it, Jennifer's voice rose. Do you have any idea how hard things are for us? The mortgage, Whitney's tuition, Jason's job situation? I'm aware, which is why I established the Family Assistance Trust with access to $250,000 over 5 years. $50,000 annually, but only if you meet the conditions you signed. $50,000? Jason laughed, a bitter sound. That's nothing. That's 0.14% of $180 million. 0.139% actually. But yes, it's a small fraction. The rest is doing something meaningful, something that matters more than paying off your mortgage or funding Jason's latest investment scheme. You manipulated us, Jennifer said. Her tears had stopped, replaced by something colder. You made us sign those documents thinking we'd get access to millions. You lied to us. I never lied. I never said how much was available. You assumed, you calculated, you made plans for money that was never yours to begin with. I walked to the window, hands in my pockets. Let me ask you something, Jennifer. When did you figure it out? The moment you saw the Facebook post? The instant you knew about the inheritance? Or did it take you a full 30 seconds before you started doing the math? She didn't answer. Here's what I find interesting, I continued. You uninvited me from Thanksgiving on November 26th because I couldn't help you financially. At that time, the foundation already existed. The money was already allocated. But you didn't know that, so you judged me based on what you thought I couldn't give you. And now that you know the truth, you're angry about what I won't give you. Either way, it was never about family. It was always about money. That's not fair, Jennifer started. Fair? Let's talk about fair. I spent 12 years alone after your mother died. 12 years of weekly phone calls where you barely listened. 12 years of showing up to Whitney's events while you complained about my pension. And the moment I couldn't fund your lifestyle, I wasn't worth your Thanksgiving table. My voice remained level, but the words landed like hammer blows. So yes, I allocated Blake's fortune to people who need it, and I gave you a chance to earn a fraction through actual work and respect. That seems perfectly fair to me. Jason's face had gone from red to white. We're going to sue you. This is elder manipulation, undue influence. We'll fight this. Please do. My attorney is Donald Fisher at Fisher & Associates. I'm sure he'd be happy to hear from your lawyers. Though I should mention, everything was done when I was 67 years old, in perfect mental health, with professional legal counsel present at every step. But by all means, spend your money on legal fees. You'll lose, but that's your choice. They stood there, trembling with rage and shock and disbelief. Get out, I said quietly. And understand this. The trust agreement still stands. If you want that $50,000 a year, you'll continue meeting the requirements. If not, the remaining funds default to the foundation. Your decision. They left without another word. They went silent after that. 3 days of nothing. No calls, no texts, no angry visits. The silence felt ominous, like the stillness before a storm. December 23rd, Fisher forwarded me an email. Thought you should see this. It was from Lawrence & Associates, a law firm in downtown Philadelphia. The subject line read, Re-estate of Blake Carroll Baker, contestation of asset distribution. I skimmed the letter. Legal language, but the message was clear. Jennifer, Jason, and Whitney were consulting attorneys about challenging the foundation, claiming I'd acted against Blake's wishes, alleging potential undue influence or diminished capacity. They're serious, Fisher said when I called. I spoke with Barry Lawrence. He's good, but he knows they don't have a case. I think he's just collecting their retainer fee. How much did they pay him? He mentioned a $4,000 consultation fee for reviewing the documents. I calculated $1,800 for the private investigator, $20,400 for their first lawyer consult, $4,200 for this new firm. They'd spent $8,400 chasing money they'd never get. What did you tell him? I asked. That Blake's will was crystal clear. You were the sole beneficiary with full discretion. And the foundation was established while you were demonstrably competent. I offered to send him Blake's will, the psychiatric evaluation we did as part of the estate planning, and the foundation documents with 3 witnesses present. He said he'd get back to me. He won't. No, he won't. December 24th. Christmas Eve. I'd planned to spend it alone, working in my workshop. The 1847 pocket watch needed one final adjustment to its escapement mechanism. At 3:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from Facebook. Jason had posted something and tagged me. I opened it. The post was long, emotional, and public. Today I learned that some people value strangers more than their own family. My father-in-law inherited a fortune and chose to give almost all of it to charity, which sounds noble until you realize he did it specifically to keep it from his daughter and granddaughter. He's using money as punishment because we couldn't attend one Thanksgiving dinner. This is what vindictive looks like. This is what happens when someone lets bitterness destroy family bonds. Disappointed family matters. Wolfsburst Christmas Reflections. Within an hour, the post had 37 comments. Most were supportive of Jason. That's terrible. Family should come first. He sounds manipulative. But a few stood out. Joyce Adams, my neighbor. Jason, I was at that Thanksgiving. Jennifer told Francis to stay away because he couldn't help financially. Maybe check your own actions first. Someone named Robert Mitchell. Wait, your Maddie gave $175 to help poor kids get educated? That says more about you than him. And one from a name I didn't recognize, Sarah Chen. I received a scholarship from the Blake Baker Foundation. It's paying for my entire college education. Mr. Baker is changing lives. Maybe you should try volunteering for his foundation instead of complaining about not inheriting money you never earned. I screenshot that last one and saved it. December 25th, Christmas Day. I worked on the watch. Around 2:50 p.m., my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the window, I saw Whitney standing alone on my porch, no car visible. She must have walked. It was a 30-minute walk from their house. I opened the door. She looked smaller somehow, wearing a heavy coat against the December cold. Her eyes were red. "Can I come in, Grandpa?" I stepped aside. We sat in the living room. She twisted her hands together, not looking at me. "Mom and Jason don't know I'm here," she said finally. "They'd be furious if they knew." "Why did you come?" Because I've been thinking about what you said, about it always being about money." She took a shaky breath. "And you're right. When I posted that Instagram picture from the Walkers, I was showing off. Their house, their lifestyle. I was proving I belonged in that world, not in yours. And when I found out about the inheritance, all I could think was, finally, Grandpa can help us live like the Walkers." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "I'm not here to ask for more money. I'm here to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how I treated you, for how I thought about you. You deserve better than that." I studied her for a long moment. "What changed?" "That comment on Jason's post, from Sarah Chen. She got a scholarship from your foundation. I looked it up. There are 43 students like her receiving full scholarships this year. 43 kids who can go to college because of what you did. And I realized I was going to that same college on my parents' money, complaining about not having the newest iPhone, while kids like Sarah were grateful just for the chance to learn." She wiped her eyes. "I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness. But I wanted you to know that I understand now. And if the trust is still available, I want to earn it. Not for the money, for the chance to prove I can be better than I was." I sat back in my chair. Outside, snow had begun to fall, dusting winding way in white. "The trust is still available," I said. "The conditions remain the same. But Whitney, if you do this, if you commit to this, it can't be performance. It can't be Instagram posts and photo opportunities. It has to be real." "I know," she nodded. "I want it to be real." After she left, I returned to my workshop. The 1847 watch was nearly complete. Just a few more adjustments, and every gear would mesh perfectly. Every spring would maintain its tension. Every second would tick with absolute precision. December 28th, I received a formal letter via certified mail. Jennifer's attorney, not Lawrence, a different one, demanding equitable distribution of estate assets and threatening legal action. Fisher responded within 3 hours with a formal rejection, citing Pennsylvania inheritance law, Blake's explicit will, and my documented mental competency. The letter was clear. There would be no lawsuit. They had no case, and everyone knew it. December 31st passed quietly. New Year's Eve alone, watching the ball drop on TV, thinking about Blake, about family, about the year that had transformed everything. At 11:03 p.m. on January 1st, 2026, my phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "Can we talk? Just us. No lawyers, no Jason. Please, Dad. January 7th. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "My house. 3 p.m. Bring Jason and Whitney. And Fisher will be there." She replied, "Okay." The real conversation was finally about to begin. January 7th, 2026. 3 p.m. sharp. They arrived together in Jason's BMW, parking in front of my house on Winding Way. I watched from the window as they sat in the car for several minutes, clearly steeling themselves for what was coming. Fisher had arrived 15 minutes early, setting up his briefcase on my dining table, documents arranged in precise stacks, legal pads, recording equipment. Everything would be documented. When the doorbell rang, I counted to 5 before opening it. They looked defeated. That was the first thing I noticed. Jason's shoulders were slumped, his usual car salesman confidence completely gone. Jennifer's face was pale, eyes red-rimmed from crying. Whitney stood between them, looking smaller and younger than her 19 years. "Come in," I said. They filed into the living room, the same room where this had all started back in November, when they'd come begging after seeing my Facebook post. the same couch where they'd sat with fake tears and empty apologies. But today was different. Fisher stood as they entered. "Mr. Walker, Mrs. Walker, Ms. Walker, please have a seat." They sat. I took my chair across from them, Fisher beside me. The power dynamic was unmistakable. They were supplicants, and we both knew it. "You wanted to talk," I said. "I'm listening." Jennifer cleared her throat. Her voice came out thin, strained. "Dad, we've had time to think about everything, about what we said at Thanksgiving, about our reaction to the foundation, about—" She trailed off, looking at Jason. Jason picked up where she faltered. "We want to apologize, really apologize, not the performance we gave in December. We were wrong about how we treated you, about what we said, about—" He stopped, struggling for words. "About everything." I let the silence stretch. 12 seconds, just like I'd planned. Long enough for them to feel uncomfortable, to really understand that their words no longer carried automatic weight. "Jennifer," I said finally, "on November 26th at 7:47 p.m., you told me there was nothing to be thankful for, that I should stay away from your Thanksgiving table because I couldn't help you financially. Do you remember?" She nodded, not meeting my eyes. "You said I had nothing to offer except talk about my clock collection and my pension, that the Walkers, Jason's family, were real family because they had money to discuss." I leaned forward slightly. "Why should I believe this apology is any different from the one you gave in December? The one that lasted exactly until you found out about the foundation?" "Because we lost everything," Jennifer whispered. "We spent over $8,000 on lawyers and investigators trying to challenge you. Jason's parents won't speak to us because we embarrassed them with that Facebook post. Whitney's friends at school saw the comments from your foundation scholarship recipients, and now she's being called spoiled and entitled." Her voice broke. "And worst of all, we lost you. The one person who was always there, no matter what." "You lost me the moment you decided I wasn't worth your time," I said quietly. "Everything that happened after that was just you realizing what you'd thrown away." Fisher slid a folder across the table. "Mr. Baker asked me to prepare these documents. They outline the current status of the Family Assistance Trust." Jason picked up the folder with shaking hands. As he read, I watched his face cycle through emotions: confusion, realization, resignation. $250,000 maximum over 5 years, I said. $50,000 per year. To access any of it, you'll need to complete 200 hours of volunteer work annually, attend 12 family dinners with me, and demonstrate, through your actions, not your words, that you understand the difference between family and finance. "And if we refuse?" Jason asked, though his voice had no fight left in it. "The trust closes. The remaining funds revert to the Blake Baker Memorial Charitable Foundation. Currently, there are 43 scholarship recipients attending college because of that foundation. Next year, there will be 65. In 5 years, over 200 young people from low-income families will have received full educational support. That's Blake's legacy. That's what his wealth is accomplishing." Whitney spoke for the first time, her voice small. "Grandpa, I'm already doing the volunteer work at the Literacy Center, teaching kids to read, and it's—" She stopped, wiping her eyes. "It's the first time I've felt like I mattered for something other than my last name or my parents' money." I looked at her, really looked at her. The girl who'd posted thankful for the Walkers was gone. In her place was someone who'd begun to understand what I'd been trying to teach them all along. "Then you can continue," I said. "All 3 of you can. The terms stand. $50,000 a year for 5 years, earned through volunteer work and genuine family connection. Or nothing at all. Your choice." Jennifer and Jason exchanged a long look. Something passed between them. Resignation, perhaps, or the final acceptance of reality. "We'll do it," Jennifer said. "Not because of the money, or not only because of the money, but because—" her voice caught. "Because I want my father back, and I'm willing to work for that chance." Fisher pulled out new documents. "Then we'll need signatures on the updated trust agreement, and Mr. Baker has one more requirement." I pulled out my phone and showed them Whitney's Instagram post from Thanksgiving. Thankful for the Walkers, they know what family really means. The post was still there, still public, still with its 53 likes. "Delete it," I said simply. "All of it. The post, the comments, the hashtags, and post something true. Whitney took my phone with trembling hands. I watched as she deleted the post, her fingers shaking. Then she opened her camera and took a new photo of the 5 of us sitting in my living room, documents spread on the table between us. She typed slowly, "Thankful I'm learning what family really means. It's not about money. It's about showing up, doing the work, and earning the relationships that matter. Grateful she's second chances." She posted it before anyone could object. The weeks that followed weren't easy, but they were real. January 16th, Jennifer called. "We've talked about it, all 3 of us. We accept the terms. We want to try." What surprised me was that they meant it. Oh, it wasn't perfect. There were stumbles, complaints, moments when the old patterns threatened to resurface. But something fundamental had shifted. By late January, I started seeing genuine changes. Whitney wasn't just teaching at the literacy center for the required hours. She was staying late, taking extra shifts, actually engaging with the kids she tutored. She posted about a 7-year-old named Marcus, who'd finally learned to read his first chapter book, and the joy in her caption was authentic. Jennifer threw herself into the animal shelter work with unexpected dedication. One evening in early February, she called me just to tell me about a 3-legged dog named Chester who'd finally been adopted. "Dad, you should have seen the family who took him. They have a son with a prosthetic leg, and they chose Chester specifically because they wanted their son to have a pet who understood being different." I cried for 20 minutes after they left. Even Jason surprised me. The car salesman who'd sneered at the homeless, who'd called the soup kitchen a place that smells like failure, started showing up early to help with meal prep. In mid-February, he came to one of our mandated family dinners and told me about running into Tom Brennan, a colleague from his dealership who'd been laid off 6 months ago. "He was in line at Broad Street Ministry," Jason said, his voice quiet. "Tom, the guy who sold more luxury SUVs than anyone in our division. And there he was, grateful for a hot meal and a kind word." Jason stared at his hands. "That could be me, Frank. One bad quarter, one wrong move, and I'm Tom. The only difference between us is luck and timing." Valentine's Day, February 14th, I hosted the first official family dinner. Fisher had recommended making it a monthly requirement, 12 per year, as the trust specified. I'd expected tension, awkwardness, forced conversation. Instead, Whitney helped me cook. Jennifer set the table without being asked. Jason brought flowers, not expensive ones, just a simple bouquet from the grocery store, but genuine. Over roast chicken and potatoes, we talked, really talked, about Blake, about the 12 years he and I had lost to pride and stubbornness. "He wrote me a letter," I said, pulling out the envelope Fisher had given me back in October. "Before he died. I didn't mention it before because I wasn't sure you'd understand." I read it aloud. "Francis, I wasted 12 years being angry at you. 12 years we could have spent as brothers. I'm leaving you everything not because you need it, but because I trust you'll use it better than I did. Money didn't make me happy. It just made me busy. Find a better use for it. Find a way to matter. And don't wait 12 years to forgive the people you love. Life's too short for that kind of pride." Blake. The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortable. "I created the foundation to honor Blake's wish," I continued, "to make the money matter. And I gave you this chance, this hard, uncomfortable, humbling chance, because I hoped it would teach you what Blake learned too late. That family isn't about what you have. It's about who you are and how you show up." By spring, the transformation was undeniable. Jennifer had befriended several volunteers at the shelter and started organizing adoption events. Whitney changed her major from business to education, inspired by her literacy center work. Jason took a lower-paying job with better hours so he could spend more time volunteering and less time chasing commissions. The money came exactly as promised. $50,000 distributed across the year, some for Whitney's tuition, some for Jennifer and Jason's mortgage, some for general expenses. Not the windfall they'd imagined, but enough to stabilize their lives while they learned to build something more meaningful than wealth. By November 2026, a year after that disastrous Thanksgiving, we gathered again, this time at my house, by choice, not obligation. Whitney had completed her first year as an education major with a 3.8 GPA. Jennifer had been named volunteer coordinator at the animal shelter. Jason had sponsored 2 scholarship recipients through the Blake Baker Foundation, and mentored them about financial literacy. And the trust? They'd earned their first full $50,000, not given. Earned. After dinner, I returned to my workshop. The 1847 pocket watch sat on my bench, complete at last. Every gear in perfect alignment, every spring at precisely the right tension, every component working in harmony. I wound it carefully and listened to the tick, steady, reliable, perfect. Some mechanisms take time to build correctly, some take time to repair, and some, like families, take patience, precision, and the willingness to dismantle everything to fix what's broken. The watch ticked steadily in the quiet workshop, marking each second with absolute accuracy. Time, I'd learned, was the most valuable inheritance of all. Not money, not property, but time, the chance to change, to grow, to become better than you were. Blake had given me money, but he'd also given me time. Time to teach my family what mattered. Time to restore what had been broken. Time to build something that would last beyond any bank account. I set the watch on the shelf next to 46 others I'd restored over the years, each one a small triumph of patience over entropy, order over chaos, purpose over decay. Tomorrow, we'd all meet at the Foundation headquarters to see the new scholarship class. 65 students this year, all chosen not for their wealth, but for their potential. Jennifer, Jason, and Whitney would be there, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The inheritance had changed everything, just not in the way any of us expected, and honestly, that made it worth every single dollar Blake had left behind. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.